So our today's agenda is to first import the room that we've done model in 3ds Max and possibly set up the composition by setting up our camera in 3ds Max and in V-Ray. So the subtask would be to set up the composition uh, with the image comp helper script. That script can be downloaded from scriptspot.com. Scriptspot.com is a very useful website. It uh, it has been around for more than I think so 2 decades, and you can find a lot of good stuff here related to 3ds Max. So the next thing would be to import our file that we modeled in Revit. Let me go to the Revit folder, and this is the room 02, and the version of 3ds Max needs to be the same as the version of Revit so that it can connect with the Revit and import the Revit file into 3ds Max. You can also export FBX, but I tend not to because over the years the Revit import for 3ds Max have improved tremendously. I am going to combine by category and combine by Revit materials, although I think that uh, we did not assign any materials because of the simplified project. But this is the workflow that I want to be doing, and I do not want to be importing any camera, daylight system, lights, or anything else. I'm just going to click on OK, and I am going to click to import everything into my scene. And before importing in the scene, we should have checked for, like unit setup, and it should be like inches, and display unit should be like set to inches because we did model in feet and inches. And this is how the room came in. It came, a little bit away from this, or from the origin point, and I am not going to move this file to the origin point because uh, in this case it's a fairly simple project, but when the projects are getting bigger and bigger, if we do changes in Revit, those changes can be imported back into 3ds Max. If we import back into 3ds Max, we don't want, if we move the file to this location and the changes came to this location, and then we have to align and position everything else. So that's why I don't like to move this model, because this is not too far from the origin. It's still in good place. That's why I tend not to move the building from the original point of its location. So the next thing would be to set up a camera and install the script called image comp helper. And let me just go into my 4 viewport layout and press the J key, and floating view, not the floating toolbars, floating views, and go to my floating views, and I am going to press Alt W and turn these into 4 viewports, and I am going to maximize this. Click here to front left, and this is going to be my, now this is how I like to work, have my big perspective view in front of me. And let me just move the scene explorer to this side so that I can navigate quickly from here to here, here to here, and my tools are on all of my tools are on my right hand side. Let me just open up the reference, go into our projects folder, and in the reference folder, this was the composition. And remember that we draw this by hand, so the this composition would be slightly off. So I think the next thing would be to uh, set up a camera, and we could, go and place a camera like this, set in, set up our composition. The first thing that we need to do is, yeah, this it's okay, 1920 by 1080, and then we could create a camera from this view, by clicking on this icon. But what I like to do is go into my camera view and V-Ray and V-Ray physical camera, and go into my top view and click drag the camera, click over here, and then press C, and then I can, click on this camera filter and click on this camera and move it up slightly by here, and look at my reference. So this is kind of somewhere around here, and now I am just going to eyeball it and set up the camera like here, like this way, and go into my modify panel, selecting the camera modify panel, and then we could change the focal length to maybe 50 millimeters. That's okay, it's good. Turn off the con because I cannot see the composition. Now I am going to drag and drop this image comp helper script. Now I can just right click to place and see if my composition is working, and then can go back to my filters and click on this picture frame. uh, Remember, these are just guidelines and are not meant to be followed like 100%. So let me just move my camera slightly to this position and place my picture frame maybe like to this place, and I am going to for the time being just click on this old and trusty teapot and possibly like scale this up like this way. I think this is working really well. Our camera is locked and our placement is locked. Now we need to replace these objects and start modeling. I'm just going to balance the frame by slightly moving to this side and squeezing this picture frame because I'm looking at my negative space. Remember the rule for composition, like art rules. For a quick memory jog, you can see that I have opened these files up, and these are the basic rules and guidelines that we generally like to follow along when we, do any sort of artwork. It's just not related to 3D, it's 2D and everything else. And off the record, I just did these pencil sketches, and I think I'm going to do this cherry sketch and put it here in the picture frame, so that would be great. So that task is done, and the next task would be to model the interior. And the tasks include model in the table, model in the vase, and model the picture frame. These would be the tasks, simple tasks that we need to do modeling when we do interior modeling. So I am going to click on this green check mark to finish my task. Like we've done importing this into Max, and we have done setting up our composition. I'm just going to close this, and I am going to save this file, vase on table.